Blessings to you. This is a report from the Watchman. I'm an evangelical pastor serving in the Pacific Northwest, and my goal is to provide regular 3 to 4 minute news briefs profiling current happenings, particularly as they relate to the ministry of God's church and the fulfillment of end-time prophecy. First up is the Middle East. Fighting continues in Syria. It has been reported that up to 6,000 people died last month. This makes March the bloodiest month in the civil war that has been waging since March 2011. The United States has been supporting rebel factions, with Iran and Russia being the principal players supporting the current Assad regime. Israel and many others have grave concerns regarding the rebel factions in Syria. Some of these factions are led by radicalized Islamists who have publicly made known their intent to move against Jerusalem after Assad falls. Israel has stated that they will not allow rebel factions access to the large stockpile of chemical and biological weapons that are currently under President Assad's control. However, in the last few days, fierce fighting has broken out in the city of Al-Shafira. Rebel forces seem to have the upper hand. News sources report that the city of Al-Shafira is very close to a large cache of conventional and non-conventional weapons. Watch for Israel to make another raid similar to the one launched into Syria a few weeks ago. In Israel, a new natural pipeline is up and running. This is a new trillion-dollar resource for Israel, and perhaps it's another facet of the fulfillment of the Ezekiel 36:11 prophecy regarding how in the last days Israel will prosper. In the Asian theater, China confirms a number of new H7N9 cases. This is a previously unknown strain of bird flu. 4 have died in the last week. This disease report follows last week's report of a new deadly meningococcal disease reported in Tijuana and in Southern California. North Korea continues its belligerent rhetoric. This has been an annual spring event for the last few decades and a hallmark of the Un family dynasty. But the new dictator, Kim Jong-un, seems to have taken the rhetoric to new heights, stating that North Korea has entered into a, quote, state of war with the South, and has specifically threatened a number of U.S. interests. The U.S. has responded by sending stealth fighter jets, bombers, and various naval vessels to the area. China has responded by putting their military on alert. Pray that tension subsides and God's peace prevails. The church is severely persecuted in North Korea. It has been suggested that North Korea is the deadliest place in the world for God's people today. In Madagascar, great swarms of locusts have descended on about half of the country. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization note that this puts about 60% of the population at risk. In regard to weather and geology, there was a major landslide in Tibet a few days ago. The death toll is now 17. There was also a landslip in Whidbey Island, Washington. This has claimed 2 houses and has threatened 34 others. But fortunately, there have been no deaths. In the last few days, there has been significant flooding on the Indian island of Mauritius. 11 have died. And finally, a report on the persecuted church. Last Saturday in western China, a house church that had been a meeting site for Christians for 13 years was shut down by Chinese authorities. This follows the demolition of several house churches in China in March. On Easter Sunday, police stopped an outside procession and evangelical rally in Jos, Nigeria. Also on Easter, several hundred Christians gathered in front of the presidential palace in Indonesia to protest the demolition of Christian churches and the growing persecution of Christians throughout the island nation. In Iran, the family of the imprisoned American Christian pastor Farshad Fati secretly escaped from Iran to Canada. Please continue to pray for Pastor Farshad, who is serving a 6-year prison term in a brutal concentration camp. And finally, pray for Christians in Sri Lanka. Persecution there is growing rapidly. Radical Buddhists have attacked Christian homes 10 different times in March. More to come soon. Stay true to the Galatians 6 challenge. Stay active in well-doing. Please send your prayer requests, questions, and news items to pastorreport@gmail.com. God bless you.